Have you ever looked at someone and thought, wow, you care more about rules and property lines than an actual human life? Imagine this. An old man fighting for breath, an ambulance in your driveway, and a neighbor so obsessed with HOA rules that she literally grabs that dying man's arm and tries to stop the paramedics from helping him. Sounds insane, right? But it happened. And by the end of this story, she's the one sitting in the back of a police car. Before we jump in, do me a quick favor. If you've ever had a nightmare neighbor or dealt with a power-tripping HOA, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and drop a comment with your story. I really want to know what you've gone through, because after you hear this, you're going to have a lot to say. All right, let's rewind. I never thought I'd watch someone drag my 78-year-old father out of an ambulance. Not in a movie. Not in some viral clip. In my own driveway, in front of my own home. And all because one woman decided that HOA rules mattered more than whether my dad lived or died. My father is a Vietnam veteran, a real one. Not the movie kind, the quiet kind, Purple Heart. A guy who used to run everywhere when he was young and now shuffles a little when he walks. His hands shake when he pours his coffee. He laughs at old sitcoms. He still calls me kiddo, even though I've got gray hairs of my own. When my mom passed away, everything changed. The house he'd lived in for years felt like a museum of memories he didn't want to walk through anymore. He'd sit alone in his recliner, TV on, volume too loud, pretending he was fine. But he wasn't. So I did what any kid who loves their parent would do. I said, "Dad, come stay with me. We'll figure it out together." That's how we ended up in Oakwood Estates. On the surface, Oakwood Estates is that kind of neighborhood you see in real estate ads. Green lawns, perfect hedges, kids riding bikes, quiet streets. Family-friendly community stamped on every brochure. Every mailbox is the same color. Every house is painted in one of 3 approved shades. Even the trash cans have a specific place they're supposed to be hidden. At first, it looked peaceful, safe, clean. But there's a thin line between organized and controlled. We met that line in human form, the HOA president, Karen Wilkinson. From the second we moved in, we could feel her eyes on us. You know that look. That tight, judgmental scan from head to toe, like she's checking if you match the decor. She introduced herself with that fake smile people use when they're being polite but already don't like you. "Welcome to Oakwood Estates," she said. "We just really value standards here." I didn't know it at the time, but that word, standards, was her favorite weapon. The first thing she went after was my dad's American flag. He was so proud of that flag. It wasn't just fabric to him. It was years of his life, friends he lost, things he saw and never talks about. When he moved in, he asked if he could hang it on the porch. I said, "Of course. It's your home, too." 3 days later, I opened the mailbox and found a neatly folded letter. No welcome, no how are you, nothing, just, "Your flag exceeds the allowable dimensions by approximately 3 inches. Please correct immediately to maintain community standards." 3 inches, she measured. I remember handing the letter to my dad at the kitchen table. He read it slowly, his jaw tightening just a little. Then he smirked. 3 inches, he said. "Guess they're winning the war on flags now, huh?" We laughed. We shrugged it off. We thought it was annoying but harmless. We were wrong. That letter was just the opening shot. Next, it was the birdbath he liked to sit beside in the mornings. Attracts unwanted wildlife. Then the small garden gnome he thought was funny. Visually inappropriate. Then the little solar lights we installed along the walkway so he wouldn't trip at night. Non-compliant with approved exterior lighting. Every week, I'm not exaggerating, another notice. Another please correct immediately. Another signature in perfect cursive from Karen Wilkinson, HOA president. Sometimes I'd walk outside and catch her staring at our house, clipboard in hand, like a building inspector for people's lives. If she saw me, she'd march over with that tight-lipped smile. "Mr. Davis," she'd say, "we work really hard to keep the neighborhood looking a certain way. If you can't adhere to the rules, perhaps another community would be more appropriate." I'd nod, force a smile, and say, "I'll take that under advisement, Karen." Inside, I was screaming. Outside, I stayed calm, and that drove her crazy. She wanted control, total control. And when someone like that can't control you, they don't calm down, they escalate. Stay with me here because what she does next. It doesn't just cross a line, it erases it completely. It was a Tuesday. One of those regular, forgettable days you'd never think twice about. I was working from home, laptop open, half listening to an email notification chime, half ignoring the cold coffee on my desk. My dad was in the kitchen making a sandwich. I could hear him moving around, fridge door opening, plates clinking on the counter. Then there was this sound. Not a normal sound, not a plate dropping or a cabinet door slamming. It was a heavy, awful thud. My body reacted before my brain did. I jumped up, heart already racing. "Dad," I called out. Silence. My stomach dropped. I rushed to the kitchen. He was hunched over the counter, one hand gripping the edge like he was trying not to fall, the other clutching his chest. His face was this pale, grayish color I'd never seen on him before. Not tired, not sick, just wrong. "Dad," his eyes were half open, unfocused. He tried to talk, but all that came out was a groan, a sound I never want to hear again. His breathing was quick, shallow, like his lungs couldn't grab the air they needed. In that moment, everything else in the world stopped mattering. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped it, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency?" "My dad," I blurted out. He's older, he's a veteran, heart problems, he collapsed. I think it's his heart, I don't know what to do." The dispatcher's voice was calm. "Steady, okay, sir, I need you to stay with me. Is he conscious? Is he breathing? I'm sending an ambulance right now. If he stops breathing, I'll walk you through CPR. You're not alone, stay with him. Help is on the way." Those words, "help is on the way," felt like a rope thrown to someone drowning. I knelt beside him, one hand on his shoulder, the other on his back. "Dad, hey, stay with me, okay? Just breathe, they're coming. Please, just hang on." Time got weird, every second stretched out forever. Then sirens. In the distance at first, then getting louder. That sound that everyone complains about when they're stuck in traffic. In that moment, it was the most beautiful noise I'd ever heard. I ran to the front door and flung it open. The ambulance turned into our street, lights flashing red and blue, reflecting off the neat little garages and manicured lawns of Oakwood Estates. It pulled halfway into my driveway, engine humming. 2 EMTs jumped out, all business, moving fast, grabbing their gear. They were focused on one thing, saving my father. But someone else had noticed the commotion. Across the street, Karen stepped out of her house, arms folded, eyes narrowed. You'd think at a moment like that, a normal person would be concerned. Maybe ask, "Is everything okay?" Not her. She saw an ambulance in a driveway, and all she could see was a violation. She started marching toward us like a manager walking up to a worker she wanted to scold. Fast, stiff, angry, my chest tightened. "Not now," I thought. "Please, not now." The EMTs swung open the back doors, pulled out the stretcher, and started toward the house. And then, right there in front of them, Karen stepped into their path, hands up like she was directing traffic. "Excuse me," she snapped. "Excuse me, commercial vehicles are not allowed in residential driveways according to Section 7.3 of the HOA bylaws." One of the EMTs blinked, trying to process what she'd just said. "Ma'am, we're responding to a medical emergency," he replied, already trying to move around her. "You can park on the street and carry your equipment from there," she insisted. "We have rules here. The neighbors do not want to look out and see this kind of disruption." I stepped out onto the porch, disbelief turning into anger so hot I could feel it in my throat. "Karen," I shouted, "my father is having a heart attack. Get out of the way." For a split second, she glanced at me. Her face didn't soften. It didn't show fear or concern or even doubt, just annoyance, like I was the one being unreasonable. To their credit, the EMTs didn't argue. They squeezed past her, carrying their equipment inside. She stood there, fuming like they'd just parked a monster truck on her rose bushes. But she didn't stop. Oh no, inside they worked fast. Oxygen mask over my dad's face. Leads on his chest, blood pressure cuff. One EMT calling out numbers, the other adjusting meds and wires. "Stay with us, sir, stay with us." "We're going to transport him," one of them told me. "You can ride in the back with him." "We need to go now?" We wheeled him toward the door. His skin felt cold when I grabbed his hand. His eyes fluttered like he knew something bad was happening but couldn't fight it. We got him onto the stretcher. We rolled him down the driveway. We lifted him into the ambulance. And then the troll came back to guard the bridge. Karen stepped right back to the foot of the driveway, hands on her hips, looking at the ambulance like it was graffiti. "I've documented this violation," she announced loudly as if she were in a meeting. "The board will be discussing this, along with your unauthorized decorations and your non-approved lighting." I wanted to scream, "My dad might be dying and you're talking about lights," but I didn't have time for her. I jumped into the back of the ambulance, sat beside my father, and held his hand. "It's okay, Dad, we're going to the hospital. Just breathe. I'm right here." One of the EMTs went to close the back doors. And that's when Karen went from annoying HOA Karen to criminal. She shoved herself between the doors, blocking them from closing, like she had some kind of authority over where life-saving vehicles could sit. "You need to move this vehicle immediately," she shouted. "It's blocking the view of the community fountain. That's a clear violation of—" "Ma'am," the paramedic said sharply. "We are in the middle of a medical emergency. Step back." She didn't. Instead, she reached inside. She actually reached into the ambulance, past the paramedic, past me, and grabbed my father's arm. "If your father is well enough to be causing this kind of disruption," she hissed, "then he's well enough to follow the rules like everyone else." Time froze. My father winced in pain, the heart monitor beeped faster, the EMT's eyes went wide, and something inside me snapped. I grabbed her wrist and yanked her hand off my dad. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted. "He could die. Get away from him." I pushed her backward out of the doorway, not to hurt her, but enough to get her away from my dad's fragile, bruised arm. She stumbled, then straightened up, her face twisting into pure rage. "How dare you lay hands on me?" she screeched. "This is assault. I am the HOA president. You can't treat me like this." And of course, she pulled out her phone and started recording. "I want everyone to see how these people terrorize our community," she said loudly, making sure the camera caught her fake, wounded expression. "This is what we've had to put up with. Constant violations, abuse, disrespect." Behind her, I noticed a few neighbors peeking out from their doors, some even holding their own phones. Watching, recording, not helping. Inside the ambulance, my dad let out a weak, pained sound, like a whisper trying to cut through all the noise. The monitor beeped again, faster. That sound hit me harder than anything she said. All I wanted was to close those doors and get to the hospital. Then from down the street, another siren joined the chaos. Lower, slower, familiar, a police car. And this was the moment everything began to turn. In our area, cops sometimes respond to medical calls, just in case they're needed for traffic, safety, or backup. The cruiser rolled up behind the ambulance, lights flashing. Out stepped Officer Jenkins. I recognized him from a neighborhood event. Tall, calm, that quiet, steady kind of cop. The kind who doesn't need to raise his voice to control a situation. He took one look at the scene. The ambulance, the open doors, my pale, hooked-up father inside, the EMTs glaring, me looking frantic, and Karen standing there with her phone in the air. His face changed, just a little, jaw tight, eyes sharper. Karen saw him as her backup. Bad mistake. "Officer," she shouted, storming toward him. "I want this man arrested immediately. He assaulted me while I was enforcing HOA regulations. He and his father have been a problem since the day they moved in." The EMTs stepped up fast. "Officer," one of them said firmly, "this woman physically grabbed our patient and blocked us from leaving. The ambulance camera got everything." You could almost see Jenkins putting the pieces together in his head. He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the ambulance right now." She scoffed. "Do you understand who I am?" she asked, like she was talking to a waiter who messed up her order. "I'm the HOA president. I have full backing of the board and our lawyer. These people are constant violators. We have rules. I don't care if you're the president of the United States," he cut in, voice suddenly iron. "You are interfering with emergency medical services. Move now." The street went quiet. Even the neighbors holding their phones stopped whispering. She didn't move. Instead, she reached into her tote bag, pulled out a thick folder stuffed with papers, and shoved it toward him. "These are our bylaws," she said, her voice trembling with fury. "That ambulance is a violation. They can park on the street. This is a peaceful neighborhood, and we can't have." And that was it. You could feel the moment the last bit of patience left his body. "Ma'am," he said, taking a step toward her, "turn around and place your hands behind your back." Her eyes widened. "What, Karen Wilkinson?" he said clearly. "You are under arrest for assault and for interfering with emergency medical services." The words hung in the air. The same woman who loved rules more than anything was hearing the biggest rule of all. "The law, you can't do this," she shouted, backing away. "I'm the HOA president. I'm just enforcing standards. That's my job." He didn't flinch. He gently turned her around, cuffed her wrists, and started reading her rights. Suddenly, those little white violation letters in people's mailboxes didn't seem so scary. The neighbors watched in stunned silence as she, the queen of the cul-de-sac, was walked to the police car, hands behind her back, still yelling about property values and community guidelines. The squad car door shut, and in that moment, she finally stopped talking. One of the EMTs turned to me. "We've got to go now." This time, no one got in the way, the doors closed, the siren fired up, and we pulled away. Inside the ambulance, I held my dad's hand and watched the monitor like it was his lifeline, because it was. Every beep was proof he was still here. "Hang on, Dad, hang on." When we reached the hospital, they rushed him straight into the ER. I wasn't allowed to follow at first. I stood in the hallway, pacing, hands on my head, replaying everything. What if they had listened to her? What if they'd actually moved the ambulance? What if she had delayed them just a few more minutes? After what felt like forever, a doctor stepped out. "Are you his son?" he asked. "Yeah," I managed. "He had a serious cardiac event," the doctor said, "but your quick call and the paramedics being able to work on him quickly helped a lot. If there had been even a few more minutes of delay," he paused, "the outcome could have been fatal." That word, fatal, hit me like a punch. A few more minutes, that's all it would have taken. A few more minutes of arguing about parking. A few more minutes of her blocking the doors. A few more minutes of her caring more about a fountain view than my father's heartbeat. He might not be here. Weeks later, when my dad was stable and recovering at the VA hospital, the legal part of all this finally came around. Court day, the courtroom wasn't glamorous. No big drama, just worn wooden benches and tired faces. But I'll never forget the way Karen looked standing there at the defense table, hair perfect, blazer pressed, a thick folder of HOA documents clutched like a shield. She still believed those papers meant something in here. They didn't. The ambulance footage was played. The jury saw her arm reaching in. They heard the paramedics shouting at her to move. They saw my father lying on the stretcher, hooked up to wires. The EMTs testified. They explained how she blocked them, how she grabbed him, how every second matters in a heart emergency. Officer Jenkins testified, calm, detailed, no drama, just facts. She tried to spin it. She said she was concerned about potential misuse of emergency services. She said she felt threatened when I pushed her away from my dad. She claimed she was just trying to protect the community from chaos. But facts don't care about her spin. She wasn't protecting anyone. She put a man's life at risk. In the end, the judge didn't need long. He found her guilty of assault and of interfering with emergency medical services. Her punishment: 200 hours of community service at the VA hospital, a $5,000 fine, mandatory anger management. And this part made the whole room go quiet. She was banned from serving on the HOA board ever again. The judge looked her dead in the eye and said, "Your role as HOA president does not place you above the law or above basic human decency." She tried one last time. "But Your Honor," she stammered, "I've been president for 7 years. The community needs me. Who will enforce the standards?" He raised an eyebrow and said, "I suggest you find a new hobby, preferably one that doesn't involve harassing elderly veterans." Gavel. Done. Walking out of that courtroom, I finally felt like I could breathe. My dad was still in recovery, but alive. I could still pull up a chair next to his hospital bed and listen to him tell old stories. I could still complain about his terrible taste in TV shows. And back home, something had changed. No more little white envelopes in my mailbox. No more photos of my porch taken from across the street. No more fake smile waiting to lecture me about standards. Neighbors who'd been silent before suddenly found their voices. One older couple came up to me and said, "She threatened to fine us for leaving our trash cans out 15 minutes too long. We were scared to speak up. Thank you for standing your ground." Another neighbor said, "We thought we were alone. Turns out everybody was miserable. We were just all too scared to say anything." And the wildest, most ironic part, Karen now has to do community service around people just like my dad, veterans. Men and women who actually sacrifice something. People who walk slowly, breathe carefully, sit in wheelchairs, carry scars you can see and some you can't. Will that change her? I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Some people never get it. But here's what I do know: no title, not president, not manager, not boss, not board member, puts you above basic humanity. Rules matter. Order matters, sure, but people matter more, always. So let me ask you this. Have you ever dealt with someone who hid behind a title to justify being cruel? An HOA president, a boss, a teacher, a neighbor, anyone who thought a little bit of power meant they could treat people like trash. If you have, tell me your story down in the comments. I'm not joking, I read them. And I know there are a lot of Karens out there, and a lot of people like you just trying to live in peace. And if you're still here, listening to my dad's story, do me a solid. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and share this video with someone who's tangled with a nightmare HOA or a power-tripping neighbor. The more people hear stuff like this, the harder it is for people like her to hide behind fake authority and printed bylaws. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.